Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today, I want to talk to you about Untamed Feral Factions, a game that is hitting Kickstarter now. Today. The day most of you are watching this video. Now, Untamed is a game that Jan and I, my co-host, put out a gameplay of about a week and a half ago. And there'll be a link in the description of this video, so if this preview video spikes your interest, swing over to the Kickstarter page and check out what they have going on, and also make sure you check out our gameplay video to see everything up and running. This is going to be a preview video that goes over a few specific elements. First off, what Untamed is, what you can expect from this game, what you're going to see over on the Kickstarter page, some things that I think you should be paying attention to, and then finally, a few of the mechanics or elements of this game that might be reasons why you'll enjoy it. So, let's go ahead and start diving into Untamed. Untamed is going to be a 2 to 3 player, 20 to 30 minute deck combination game. And what do I mean by that? It's not quite deck construction. You're not building or crafting your own deck, and it's not quite deck building. You're not developing your deck as you play the game. Instead, at the very start of the game, you're going to be choosing between these various different animal decks. And you're going to be combining 3 of those decks together to create not only your strongholds, which are your defenses, but then also the animal factions that you're playing with, going up against your friend or your opponent. Now, each of these animals, each of these factions are going to play slightly different, so the way that they combine, the way that their abilities and deck mechanics work together can create some interesting pairs and combinations, and this game is one that will reward you through experimenting and figuring out what combinations fit your play style the best. And we'll go through all of these animals and exactly how they play in just a little bit. But before we get there, I want to paint a picture about how Untamed itself plays. Once you've combined those 3 decks together, you're then going to be choosing your stronghold. Now, every single animal faction is going to have a stronghold. This is going to be their home base, but it's also going to be the victory point, or the victory condition. You see, as these realms come together, as their bases and societies are lending aid to the war that is happening, this is going to be their capital, their main fortress, and your job is to tear through and take down your opponent's capitals. Now, you're going to order these strongholds, all 3 of them, in whatever order you want, and this is going to be an important part because all of these are going to come with special abilities, their own system of defense, and ways that they integrate into the rest of your deck or the rest of the way you're playing. And that will also set up your win or victory condition, trying to maximize and work your way down until you've destroyed all 3 of your opponent's strongholds. The other main element that we're going to dive into at the end of this video is going to be with how you actually use your hand of cards, or the deck that you're drawing up from. You see, these cards have multiple uses, and they become different types of resources depending on how you utilize and play them. There are, of course, standard creatures and items or abilities that will either enter your ranks up here in the front line to go to battle and go to war, or potentially defend your base or your strongholds from being directly attacked. Items will be special abilities, modifiers, things that buff different characters, kind of a standard approach to how you'd expect those cards to play. But then every card also has the opportunity to become a supporter, which is going to be in the right side of your playfield, and these will be used to pay for special abilities, like your Stronghold ability specifically. Imagine as the war rages on and ranks return from the front lines, they lend aid and advice and their skills to the capital city. And that capital, that stronghold, is then able to utilize those supporters to do bigger or better or more powerful activations throughout the course of this game. Building this pocket of resources, these additional extra cards, for special moments or moments where you're able to chain and pair attacks together is going to be really important. The other thing that your cards can be is they can be resource. Similar to any of your Pokemon or Magic the Gathering style plays, every card is going to have a cost in the top. And to hire or recruit or use a special ability, you're either going to be paying the resource by tapping these cards on your turn, or your supporters by discarding them from your supporter pile into a discard deck, where they'll never come back into the game. So there are a multitude of uses for the cards in your deck, along with a variety of ways that they interact with each other. And the best way for me to show that off is to dive in here into the rulebook and read what I would consider maybe a little bit of flavor text, but an overview of these different factions that you're going to have available to you. So we have the Chameleon. The crazy chameleons gain effects as they play multiple cards in a turn. So chaining, maximizing, making sure you have the resource cost and the supporters to pair those piles and pair those effects together, really powerful there. The Crocodile. The mighty crocodiles use their last word abilities and trigger them multiple times. Last word abilities are going to be abilities that happen when your ranks, when your battle line is defeated. So if you have crocodiles out and they get attacked, you're going to be able to chain and trigger those kind of last action abilities a few times. Foxes. The sneaky foxes manipulate attack values as well as their own deck. So the foxes are going to be focused on increasing or decreasing their own kind of attack pool, setting up strong defenses, or at least making sure you're taking out your opponent the moment that they're attacking you. Panda. The merchant pandas focus on stronghold abilities and producing extra support. So really triggering your stronghold, really maximizing the different strongholds you have in your deck. And then along with that, triggering those supporters, getting that supporter deck nice and big. So for instance, pairing with the chameleons could be really powerful because you want to have supporters and resource to trigger as many of those chameleon cards as you can. You see, things kind of pair together here. The rabbit. The dutiful rabbits overwhelm their foes but remain flexible with their arrive abilities. Arrive abilities are going to be things that happen when you play a card down, kind of the opposite of the last words abilities. With these rabbits, you're going to be focused on making sure you can overflow the ranks. Always having something there to attack, to pepper, to defend, distracting your opponent as much as possible with just cards out on the field. The raccoon. The tinkering raccoons protect your other animals and increase their attack power in the process. So something like a raccoon to layer on a defense paired with a rabbit who's going to swell the ranks and always have something to attack with could be a really powerful and interesting combination. The rats. The unsavory rats are a versatile faction that prefer playing and interacting with low-cost animals. So interesting there. They're focused on getting cards out, but maybe not building this resource deck as high. You might not need all 5 resources out. You might only need a few, or if you do have all the resources, you can actually play a lot more rats all in one swell. The rhino. The powerful rhinos manipulate damage tokens and generate a lot of fury. Fury is going to be your power and defense stat. It is a single modifier that gets placed down on the card. When you gain fury, your attack value and your defense value are going to increase simultaneously. What does that mean? That means when you attack, you're going to be doing more damage, and when someone attacks you, because both of you will hit each other, there's always a retaliate action, unless you have a specific ability that modifies that. You will also be guaranteeing potential damage back to your opponent. And then finally, the tiger. The fierce tigers defeat other animals to grant them a bonus. So if you're using a tiger and you're able to successfully take down your opponent, that's going to trigger. So sort of instead of win played or the last words ability, this is going to be more of a middle ability, something that triggers while you still have action out on the board. So that's an overview of the animal factions that we have here. And one important thing, while this is a reprint for Untamed, because it's been unavailable and hard to get in the States for a little while, this is also an expansion. So over there on the Kickstarter page, take the time to look at the other animals that are going to be available, because they're introducing some new mechanics, some new creatures, and some incredible artwork, and I know they're really excited to show it off. And let me know in the comments down below, what animal pairs or animal factions are you the most interested in linking and pairing together? So that's an overview of the core idea of this game and how some of these cards will interact with each other. Let me talk about the 2 things that I've already gone over a little bit, but the 2 things that I think might make this game interesting or right for you. So you can determine if this is a game that you want to bring home back on Kickstarter and bring home for your family to play. First off, the way that these decks combine provide an interesting head-to-head battle system. You don't have to think too heavily about grabbing and pairing things together. In fact, I usually go, based off of story and thematics. It doesn't always work out the best for me, but it is how I approach most everything. So when it comes to this, if you enjoy deck combination games, if you enjoy head-to-head card play, but you don't have the time to delve into some of those bigger living card games, or some of the deck construction games that require you to really know the systems in place, this can be an easy and accessible way to get a game in that lineage to the table without needing or requiring you and all your friends to know 7 dozen different keywords, every single card combination potential, and buying a lot of booster packs to allow you to build and craft the perfect deck, which just annihilates and obliterates everything in front of it. The other thing that I think is interesting and unique about this game is going to be the way that these cards are utilized through the course of play. You're only ever playing through your single stack of cards. You're never redrawing and reshuffling. So the math of what cards do I have in my hand, what am I pretty sure is going to be coming out onto the table, and what is being used in my supporter pool and in my resource pool that I know I'm not going to get access to again. That pressure point, that system in play, creates a really nice dynamic. You're always trying to gauge where and how you want to utilize the cards that you have available, because they are not going to come back into the cycle. And because the ranks and the resources that you have are both going to enable you to do your special abilities, but potentially restrict you in the late game or the end game if you've already spent or utilized too many of those. Along with that, another thing that, and I know I said two, and I'm going to add another one in because I do continue, hopefully, to think while I film these videos. Another thing that I think is cool that I haven't had the chance to experiment with as much as I would have liked is going to be the multiplayer game modes and also the expansion game modes. In this core box, this is the Kickstarter copy from the original Kickstarter, it came with a stack of special ability cards with some really lovely full artwork displayed and some unique mechanics and extra special abilities and characters. And the reason this is important is because this game, while it is simple and accessible, straightforward, you're adding 3 decks together and you're following about 12 keywords to battle back and forth. It can, like it says on the box, be played in about 20 to 30 minutes. There are also expansion and more complex or interesting game modes. We have the Mythic mode, where you're going to be introducing mythic creatures and integrating them into the deck that have special or more powerful abilities. We have the Epic game modifier. This is where you're going to be replacing the Strongholds with their epic modifiers, making them a little bit tougher and also making them a little bit more powerful when it comes to the way they're influencing the game state. And then we have the Legendary game modifier. This is going to introduce spirit cards, which are also going to have a pretty major impact in the deck and exactly how you're integrating with your resources or with your supporters specifically. So these game modifiers, these game modes, if you enjoy a light, accessible game but want room to manipulate and adjust that accessibility or adjust the complexity, take the time to look at the rulebook, dig into these expansion modes, and check out for yourself exactly how they modify the game state. And also, something that I'm not sure of, but it'd be worth checking out or asking over on the Kickstarter page, see if they're doing any other expansion game modes in this Kickstarter. Because my bet is, or the odds are, they're probably doing some unique things, especially with some of these mythic animals or legendary strongholds. So, that being said, this is just intended to be a preview of Untamed. I wanted to reintroduce it, give a tight video so that you're not intimidated by the length of our gameplay, which runs about 45-ish minutes long because Jan and I have fun and happen to talk to each other a little bit too much. We also have a final thoughts section over there as well. So with that being said, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Leave a comment or a quack down below. And if this has piqued your interest, check out the Kickstarter page and also swing over to the gameplay and let me know you ended up there. Whatever the case though, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing, get out and play some games, and I'll see you next time.